The signal in the dark. The distress beacon cut through the void like a scream in the night. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the U.S. Meridian, watching the holographic display paint patterns of light across her weathered face. 23. Years of commanding repair vessels had taught her to read distress signals like sheet music, but this one was different. This one sang. "Run the analysis again, Chun," she ordered, never taking her eyes off the swirling data streams. Dr. Marcus Chun hunched over his console, fingers dancing across quantum processors that hummed with barely contained energy. The xenobiologist had joined her crew 6 months ago, fresh from the academy with theories about alien communication that most dismissed as fantasy. Elena had learned not to dismiss much of anything in the outer systems, where Earth's reach grew thin and strange. Things happened in the dark between stars. The signal originated from mining station Kepler 442b, Chun reported, his voice tight with concentration. "But Captain, there's something else embedded in the transmission. Harmonic frequencies that shouldn't exist in human technology. Mathematical. Progressions that follow no known pattern, but somehow feel familiar." Engineer Riley Santos looked up from her workstation, pushing a strand of black hair from her eyes. At 24, she was the youngest member of Elena's crew and easily the brightest. She had rewritten the quantum resonance protocols for half the fleet before her 23rd birthday, and Elena had fought 3 different captains to keep her aboard the Meridian. "The harmonics are artificial," Riley said, her fingers still, working as she spoke, "but they're not random noise. There's structure here, like language, but not quite. Like music, but not quite. Like mathematics, but not quite." Security Chief Jackson Webb shifted in his chair, hand instinctively moving toward the plasma rifle, maglocked to his station. The former Marine had seen enough combat in the Outer Rim Wars to know when something felt wrong, and everything about. This mission felt wrong from the moment they'd received the transmission. How long since the station's last scheduled check-in? He asked. Elena pulled up the Mining Consortium's files on her personal display. 72 hours. Standard protocol. Calls for emergency response after 48. We're already behind schedule. The Meridian shuddered slightly as Riley engaged the quantum drives, reality bending around them as they slipped into the spaces between normal spacetime. Elena had never gotten used to the sensation of translation, the way her thoughts seemed to stretch like taffy, while her body forgot how to exist for exactly 17 seconds. When they emerged in normal space near Kepler 442b, the mining station hung before them like a jewel in the darkness, but it was the wrong kind of jewel. "Jesus," Webb whispered. The station should have been a utilitarian collection of gray metal modules, extraction arrays, and processing facilities. Instead, it sparkled. Crystalline growths covered every surface, catching and reflecting the light of the system's distant star in patterns that hurt the eyes to follow. The structures weren't random. They flowed across the station's hull like frozen rivers, creating geometric designs that suggested intelligence behind their formation. "Life signs?" Elena asked. Chun's scanner array swept the station with every sensor the Meridian carried. "Faint. Human biosignatures are present, but weak. Whatever those crystal formations are, they're interfering with our readings. But there's something else. Energy patterns unlike anything in our databases. They're not just growing on the station, they're integrated with it." Riley leaned forward, studying the quantum resonance readings streaming across her console. "Captain, those crystals aren't just decorative. They're conducting energy in patterns that match the harmonic frequencies from the distress signal. The entire station has become some kind of massive resonance chamber." Elena made her decision with the quick certainty that had kept her crew alive through dozens of emergency responses. "Prep the shuttle. Webb, full tactical loadout, but weapons on safe, unless I give the word. Chun, Bring every scanner you have. Riley, I want you monitoring our quantum signatures every second we're over there. If those crystals start affecting the Meridian systems, I want to know immediately." The shuttle bay doors opened with a soft hiss, and Elena felt the familiar flutter in her stomach that came before every dangerous mission. In 23 years, she'd never lost a crew member. She didn't intend to start now. The shuttle's proximity sensors screamed warnings as they approached the station's main docking port. The crystalline growths had spread across the airlock seals, but Riley managed to find a clear approach vector that avoided the thickest concentrations. As they settled into the docking cradle, Elena noticed that the crystals weren't just growing randomly. They were reaching toward the shuttle with obvious intent. "Stay sharp," she told her team as they cycled through the airlock. "Whatever we're dealing with, it's aware of us." The station's corridors should have been familiar territory's standard mining facility layout with main arteries, leading to processing centers and living quarters. Instead, they found themselves walking through a cathedral of living crystal. The growths had transformed every surface, creating flowing walls that pulsed with soft bioluminescent light. The air itself seemed to vibrate with barely audible tones. That made Elena's teeth ache. "This way to the control center," Webb said, consulting his tactical display. But when they reached what should have been the facility's nerve center, they found something impossible. The control room had become a concert hall. Crystalline formations rose from floor to ceiling in organ pipe arrangements, each one humming with a different frequency. At the center of the room, 3 human figures sat motionless in chairs that had been overgrown with crystal. They were alive. Elena could see their chests rising and falling, but their eyes were closed and thin. Threads of luminous crystal connected them to the greater formation around them. Dr. Martinez, Chief Kowalski, Engineer Patterson. Sean read from his scanner. The station's senior staff. "Life signs are stable, but they're in some kind of induced stasis." Riley approached one of the crystal formations, her quantum resonance detector painting wild patterns of light across its surface. "Captain, this isn't just crystal growth. This is technology. Advanced bioengineering that makes our quantum processors look like pocket calculators. And it's trying to communicate." As if responding to her words, the crystals around them began to pulse in synchronized patterns. The harmonic tones shifted, becoming more complex, more musical. Elena felt something touch the edge of her consciousness, not invasive but questioning, like a gentle knock at the door of her mind. Chan gasped, staggering backward from his scanner array. "Captain, I'm reading massive quantum entanglement signatures. These crystals aren't just connected to each other. They're part of a vast network that extends deep underground. And the signal patterns they're generating, they're not random. They're trying to tell us something." The gentle, questioning presence in Elena's mind grew stronger, and suddenly she understood. Not the words, because there were no words, but the emotion behind them. Desperation, loneliness, loss, and underneath it all, a plea for help that transcended species and language. "They're dying," she whispered. The crystalline formations around them pulsed brighter, as if her recognition had given them hope. Riley's equipment registered a massive spike in quantum activity, and for a moment, Helena thought she could see through alien eyes. She saw vast cities of crystal beneath the planet's surface, connected by streams of pure energy that carried thoughts and memories across impossible distances. She saw a civilization that had evolved beyond flesh and blood, becoming something beautiful and strange and utterly fragile. And she saw what the human mining operation had done to them. The extraction arrays had driven deep into the planet's crust, following rich veins of rare minerals. But those minerals had been part of the aliens' neural network, the pathways that connected their collective consciousness across continents. The mining had severed those connections, isolating communities. that had shared thoughts and dreams for millions of years. They were dying not from physical injury, but from loneliness, cut off from the song that had sustained them since before humans had learned to use fire. "The mining equipment," Elena said, her voice tight with understanding. "We destroyed their nervous system." The presence in her mind pressed closer, and she felt a surge of complex emotions. Not anger, though they would have been justified in their fury. Instead, she felt curiosity about these strange beings who could exist without connection, and hope that perhaps the damage could be repaired. Webb had been monitoring the station's systems while the others focused on the crystals. "Captain, we've got a problem. The station's power core is being drained to feed these formations. At current consumption rates, life support will fail in 6 hours." Elena looked at the 3 unconscious humans connected to the alien network. "They're keeping them alive, using the station's power to maintain life support for people they don't even know." She turned to Riley. "The mining equipment, can you reverse its function? Instead of extracting, can we use it to reconnect their network?" Riley's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. "Theoretically, yes. The quantum drills could create new pathways, re-establish the connections we severed. But it would require someone to interface directly with their system, to guide the reconstruction process." The alien presence in Elena's mind grew stronger, more hopeful. She could feel them gathering, the scattered remnants of their collective consciousness focusing on this one possibility. They were offering to trust completely, to open their most sacred spaces to creatures they barely understood. "Captain," Chun said quietly, "the energy requirements for this kind of operation ... It could kill whoever tries to interface with their system. We'd be talking about direct neural connection to a quantum entanglement network that spans continents." Elena looked around at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that had carried them through countless emergency missions. They hadn't come to Kepler 442b to make first contact with an alien species. They'd come to repair a broken mining station. But sometimes, she reflected, the most important repairs weren't to machinery. "Riley," she said, "start prepping the quantum drills for network reconstruction. Chun, I want you mapping their communication protocols, every frequency, every harmonic pattern. Webb, establish a perimeter around the interface chamber and monitor for any changes in the crystal formations." "And you, Captain?" Webb asked, though his expression suggested he already knew the answer. Elena approached the central crystal formation, feeling the alien consciousness reach out to welcome her. "I'm going to fix what we broke." The harmony of understanding the interface chamber that Riley constructed was a masterpiece of improvised engineering. She had repurposed the mining station's quantum drill array, creating a resonance field that could theoretically bridge the gap between human neural patterns and the alien's crystalline network. Fiber optic cables snaked across the floor, connecting jury-rigged processors to formations of living crystal that pulsed with anticipation. "The connection will be unlike anything humans have ever experienced," Chun explained as he calibrated his monitoring equipment. "Their consciousness isn't individual like ours. It's collective, distributed across their entire network. When you interface with it, you'll be connecting to the minds of an entire species." Elena settled into the chair, at the center of the array, watching neural interface nodes descend from the ceiling like the legs of some mechanical spider. She had faced down plasma storms, equipment failures in hard vacuum, and the bureaucrats of the mining consortium, but this was different. This was volunteering to become something other than human, if only for a few hours. "Vitals are stable," Webb reported from his monitoring station. "But Captain, once you're connected, we won't be able to pull you out if something goes wrong. The quantum entanglement will be too deep." Elena nodded, understanding the risk. Around them, the crystalline formations hummed with increased intensity, as if the aliens were as nervous about the connection as her crew. She could feel their presence at the edge of her consciousness, patient but desperate, like rescue workers, waiting for someone to emerge from a collapsed building. Riley, how long do you estimate for the network reconstruction? The young engineer consulted her calculations one final time. If everything goes perfectly, 4 hours. But we're dealing with quantum systems we don't fully understand, guided by aliens whose thought processes are completely foreign to us. It could take twice as long, or it might not work at all. Elena activated her personal comm for what might be the last time as a purely human consciousness. Mission log, Captain Elena Vasquez. We came to Kepler 442b for a routine repair mission and discovered we had accidentally committed genocide. The mining operation severed the neural network of an indigenous species that exists as living crystal formations. We're attempting to repair the damage by interfacing human technology with their collective consciousness. If this goes wrong, she paused, looking at each of her crew members. Tell Earth that we learned something beautiful out here. Tell them that intelligence takes forms we never imagined, and that the universe is stranger and more wonderful. And we dared to dream. Riley initiated the connection sequence, and reality dissolved. Elena's consciousness exploded across light years of crystal pathways, her individual thoughts becoming part of something vast and ancient and beautiful beyond. Words. She was no longer Elena Vasquez, captain of a repair vessel. She was part of the Valix, a species that had evolved beyond the need for individual bodies, existing as pure thought distributed through living mineral networks that spanned continents. Their collective memory, she experienced their history. She saw their world when it was young, and they were individual creatures not unlike humans, struggling to survive in harsh crystal caves. She watched them discover that their thoughts could flow through certain minerals, allowing communication across vast distances. She witnessed their gradual evolution as they learned to transfer their consciousness entirely into the crystal networks. Abandoning flesh for something far more enduring, the Valix had built cities of pure thought, communities, where ideas and emotions flowed freely between minds. They had explored the deepest parts of their world and the farthest reaches of space without ever leaving their planet, sending their consciousness through crystalline formations that grew like roots through cosmic dust. They were explorers and philosophers, artists and scientists, all aspects of a single distributed intelligence that had pondered the mysteries of existence for millions of years. And then the humans had come. Elena felt their confusion when the first mining ships arrived. The Valix had been aware of organic species before, but they had never encountered tool users, beings that could manipulate their environment on such a massive scale. They had watched with curiosity as the humans established their mining station, not understanding the threat until it was too late. The quantum drills had severed major neural pathways, isolating communities that had shared thoughts and dreams for millennia. The Valix had tried to communicate, reaching out through the only means they knew, but their harmonic frequencies were dismissed as equipment malfunctions or atmospheric interference. They had watched their people fade away, not from physical death, but from the slow agony of disconnection. But Elena also felt something else in their collective memory: forgiveness. The Valix understood that the humans had acted from ignorance, not malice. They had seen the horror in Elena's eyes when she realized what the mining operation had done, and they recognized a kindred intelligence that was capable of growth and change. Working together now, Elena and the Valix began the delicate process of reconstruction. Her human consciousness served as a bridge, translating between the precise mechanical functions of the quantum drills and the organic flow of alien thought patterns. She guided the drilling arrays not to destroy but to create, carving new pathways through the crystal formations that could carry the songs of reconnection. It was exhausting work that required perfect synchronization between human technology and alien biology. Elena felt her individual identity stretching thin as she became a conduit for two completely different forms of consciousness. The quantum resonance patterns threatened to tear her apart at the cellular level, but she held on, driven by the desperate hope she felt flowing through the Valix network. Hours passed like seconds, or perhaps seconds passed like hours. Time became meaningless in the space between minds. Elena was dimly aware of her crew monitoring her vital signs, of Riley making constant adjustments to the drilling parameters, of Chin mapping the successful connections as they formed. But most of her attention was focused on the delicate work of neural reconstruction, guiding streams of living light through pathways of crystal and thought. And then, suddenly, it was complete. The moment of reconnection was like watching a sunrise across an entire world. Elena felt the joy of separated communities as they found each other again, the relief of minds that had been alone for the first time in their existence as they rejoined the greater song. The Valix collective consciousness blazed back to full strength, their thoughts flowing once again through continental networks of living crystal. Elena's human consciousness was gently but firmly pushed back into her own body as the aliens reclaimed their fully restored network. She opened her eyes in the interface chamber, gasping as her awareness contracted from cosmic scales back to the familiar boundaries of individual thought. Her crew surrounded her, their faces tight with concern and wonder. "Status report," she managed to whisper. "All connections restored," Riley reported, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. "The network is operating at full capacity. The quantum resonance patterns are beautiful, Captain. They're like nothing I've ever seen." Chun consulted his scanners, his expression shifting from relief to amazement. "The Valix are sharing their technical knowledge with us. Captain, they're transmitting blueprints for crystal-based technology that could revolutionize our approach to quantum computing. And their mining techniques. They can extract resources without damaging the planetary ecosystem." Webb was monitoring the 3 unconscious humans who had been connected to the alien network. Dr. Martinez and the others are waking up. Whatever the Valix did to keep them alive, it's working. They'll make full recoveries. Elena struggled to her feet, still feeling the echo of alien thoughts at the edge of her consciousness. The crystalline formations around them pulsed with warm light, and she could sense gratitude flowing through the quantum resonance patterns. The Valix were thanking her, not just for the repair work, but for the understanding she had brought to the encounter. Dr. Martinez was the first of the mining station crew to regain full consciousness, blinking in confusion at the crystal cathedral that his control room had become. "Captain Vasquez, what happened?" "I remember the crystals starting to grow, and then ... music. Beautiful music that never ended." "First contact," Elena said simply. "We accidentally damaged their neural network when we started mining operations. They kept you alive while they tried to communicate, to ask for help." Over the following hours, as the mining station crew recovered, and Elena's team documented their discoveries, a new understanding began to emerge. The Valix were not just willing to forgive the damage caused by human ignorance, they were eager to establish ongoing contact. They had been alone in the universe for millions of years, the only intelligence they had ever encountered being their own distributed consciousness. The discovery that other forms of awareness existed was perhaps the most significant event in their entire history. The solution they proposed was elegant in its simplicity. The mining operation could continue, but using Valix techniques that worked with the planet's crystalline structure rather than against it. Humans would extract the resources they needed while actually strengthening the alien neural network, creating new pathways for thought and communication. In exchange, the Valix would share their advanced understanding of quantum mechanics and crystalline engineering. Elena stood in the station's observation deck, watching the sun set over a world that sparkled with renewed life. The crystal formations on the station's hull had grown more elaborate, creating beautiful patterns that served as both art and technology. Riley was already deep in study of the alien blueprints, her eyes bright with the possibilities they represented. Chun was establishing formal communication protocols, learning to speak in harmonics and mathematics with minds that thought in terms of geological time. "Mission report, Captain?" Joining her at the observation window. Elena smiled, thinking of how to explain to Earth Command that a routine repair mission had resulted in humanity's first formal alliance with an alien species. "We came to fix one thing and found something beautiful instead," she said. "Sometimes the most important repairs aren't to machinery, Jackson. Sometimes they're to understanding." In the quantum networks deep beneath the planet's surface, the Valix sang their ancient songs with renewed joy, their collective voice now enriched by the memory of human courage and compassion. And in the space between stars, other crystalline networks began to resonate with the news that they were no longer alone in the universe. The age of true galactic cooperation had begun with a simple act of repair, guided by the understanding that intelligence comes in forms beyond imagination, and that the greatest discoveries often happen when we're brave enough to fix what we've broken.